Yeah, let's discuss about the next topic, that is permission boundaries for resource controls. This is quite interesting topic, and let's understand what exactly permission boundary is this. So you can say it's a advanced layer of IAM features, advanced security layer of IAM features. So a permission boundary is an advanced IAM features in AWS that restricts the maximum permissions an IAM user or IAM role can have. So it acts as a security guardrails that defines the upper limit of permissions that can be assigned to a user or role, regardless of whatever other IAM policy it's been allowed, such as inline policy or managed policy. So why you use permission boundary? So mostly this can be used for different purpose. One is to avoid, privilege escalations, like how you are going to prevent the privilege escalations. Means what? Like let's say one user is having permissions, one IAM account is having some privilege you have given, let's say IAM full access. And because of that, IAM full access to the specific IAM user, he or she can misutilize, right? So though he or she doesn't have the access to any other resource like to launching a C2 and doing some R&D, the kind of testings he cannot do because he's having only IAM access. So in that scenario, he can create another account with giving complete permissions as he is having complete IAM access, right? He can create another IAM accounts and give the complete administrator access. And with that dummy accounts or the fake accounts, he can log in and start doing all type of R&D because there itself he can access to entire resource. So in future, all of a sudden you will get to know that the billing is so high, unnecessary. All of a sudden you got a surprise. So in that scenario, you can come up with, as architect, you can come up with one solution that how you are going to prevent such privileged escalations, because the billing again, when it will be huge, then there will be escalations, right? So how you are going to prevent this privilege escalations? So that is what in that scenario we need permission boundary. That means ensure that user roles cannot gain more access than intended, even if they are assigned broader IAM policies, like an example I have given, right? Second is your enhanced security. Ensures users can only perform actions within a specific scope. Third one is help with the compliance and least prevalence principle. And this is the best practice of IAM. So it will be useful in large organizations to enforce security and compliance policies. Now, how permission boundary work actually? First, before we jump in, let's try to understand IAM policy and permission boundary, how exactly they work. See, regular IAM policies grant permission to user roles. Regular IAM policy grant permission to users or roles. Even you can grant permission to groups as well. So a permission boundary restrict permissions, setting an upper limit on what is being allowed on top of this. So ultimately, you can say final permission is equal to IAM policy intersection permission boundary. Whichever would be the common in between IAM policy and permission boundaries consider the final permissions. That is how. Let's say what I can say in the examples. If one user is having ultimately IAM full access. Full access means he can create users, delete users, change passwords, the kind of uh, complete permissions he does have from the IAM perspective, right? He can give the complete for full access to any specific IAM accounts. Okay. And again, when you are going to set a permission boundary for that user, there itself will mention, hey, you can create the user. You can create the user, but with help of that user, you cannot launch a machine. So you have complete access, and you can create a IAM user you can give full access. But again, you log in, let's say I am Sridhar, and I created a dummy account named as user one, let's say. So user one, because I have completely full access. So I'll create a dummy accounts, let's say user one, and there itself I'll give complete permissions like administrator access. So what I'll do, I'll log in with user one, and as I do have the administrator access, so I can do any kinds of task, any kinds of actions inside the AWS account, right? So to overcome that, then my architect, my top of my whoever the head of cloud, so he has set a permissions for me. He set a permission boundary on me. Hey, Sridhar, you are misutilizing this resource and in the entire environment, and because of this we got a huge bill, and I am going to set a boundary for you, so that though you have complete control of IAM, but you cannot do what you are doing earlier, like you can create a user, but you cannot launch a machines with the help of the dummy accounts like user one and all, unless you set a permission boundary, you cannot perform. So there itself I'll declare the permissions, I mean the list of permission what has to be applied to Sridhar. Okay, so that is how, though I am allowed to provision everything, but I cannot perform which is not required in the environment, like to launching a machines, creating a S3 bucket, launching a RDS. I cannot perform. Only role is to only you have to create the IAM users, groups, and roles and all. But you cannot, even though you give the permissions, but it will not work out unless you assign the permission boundary. That is how it works. So in between this permission boundary and the IAM policy, whichever would be the common in between these two will be considered the final permissions. That is how permission boundary works. Anyway, it's be clear when I'll do in the hands-on. So this is the concept about the permission boundary. Okay. Now, where to use permission boundary? So where permission boundary actually can be applied? It can be applied to IAM users. It can be applied to roles, not groups. Permission boundary can be applied to users or IAM roles. And service link roles cannot have permission boundaries. Okay. So let's see. This is one example. This is one scenario. Let's see. Now, uh, okay. Now you see in this diagram, there is a user named called Sidhu. Okay. How this from this diagram, let's try to understand. So this is a user, its name is Sidhu. And for this user, what is the permission given? Effect is allow, action it is given for EC2, CloudWatch, and sorry, S3, CloudWatch, and EC2. Okay, so this is the permission given. But if this user wants to perform any actions on the IAM, can he? No, because this permission or the action, it is not mentioned for the IAM, only for these three actions, S3, CloudWatch, and EC2. So that's why you see in this environment, this Sidhu is part of developer groups. Okay. And this policy allows full control. This policy allows full control on S3, CloudWatch, EC2, not IAM, because IAM is not given. Okay. By default, it was supposed to allow, but it is not given in the permissions. Okay. Now, if we'll set a permission boundary, we'll write a permission boundary and we'll attach to the users and roles. We'll see how it works. Okay. Now, here you see, he is able to, this Sidhu user is able to create S3 buckets, but unable to create any IAM users or groups or roles. The operation fails because the permission boundary does not allow it. I mean to say here, actually, there is nothing mentioned in these actions. There is nothing mentioned in the actions that regarding the your IAM role permissions. If you write a permission boundary and apply this permission boundary on Sidhu user, then though IAM permission is given, here is you see EC2, right? Though IAM permission is given, but still he cannot perform because we set a permission boundary for the Sidhu user. Let's do in the lab, then it will be quite clear. Okay. Second. See, now this is example of privilege escalations. Now, Sidhu is assigned permission to AWS IAM only and cannot launch AWS resource. Okay. Sidhu is given AWS full access, but even he is given to AWS IAM full access, but he is unable to launch any AWS resource like S3 bucket, creating S3 bucket, or launching RDS server, database server, launching EC2 machines, okay, writing a Lambda functions, nothing, because Sidhu post this, if you allow this permission boundary, then Sidhu cannot perform. But without permission boundary, Sidhu can perform anything. How? What he can perform? Without permission boundary, Sidhu can launch a login. Create another dummy account. So let's say the account name is user one. He created another account user one with giving full access, complete administrator access. Then what will do? He will log in with user one and try launching the RDS server, database server, creating S3 bucket, launching EC2 mention. The kind of any task he wants to perform, he can do it. So that is how it will happen without permission boundary. Now, once we set the permission boundary for the Sidhu, that what he cannot do, though he is having complete IAM full access, but now he cannot, neither he nor user one, whatever he is going to create, he directly cannot create the user one unless he set the permission boundary. Because for Sidhu, I am the architect, I am going to set a permission boundary for Sidhu. Okay, once I set the permission boundary for Sidhu, then Sidhu cannot create the user one the way he was creating earlier, right? Without permission boundary, he was creating the user one immediately and giving complete access. And then later on, he used to log in with user one and start launching the resources and all, which he was misutilizing and unnecessary consuming a lot of billing cost. It's a big surprise, and now it is a big escalations, right? How we are going to prevent this? How we are going to overcome this kinds of such issues, ongoing issue? That is how how we are going to prevent privilege escalations, because we have given the most privilege, not least privilege, most privilege for the IAM to Sidhu. Now we are going to minimize. We are going to prevent it. So for that, we are going to write a permission boundary. Now once I set the permission boundary to Sidhu, then so what Sidhu will do? Sidhu is unable to create the user unless he apply the permission boundary to user one. Okay. So that is how it will work. How it will work? Let's jump into the lab and discuss. Let's one scenario. Let me discuss. Hope everyone is clear about the permission boundary. What exactly permission boundary? How it works? Okay. Now, yeah. Scenario is, let's say your company has multiple development teams working on AWS. The security team wants to ensure that IAM users can create and manage AWS resources. IAM users can create and manage AWS resources, but cannot exceed certain permissions. Goal is to implement permission boundary. I mean to say, let me come up with one in general scenario. Let's say CM is the head of the states and PM is the head of the country, right? Even the CM is the most powerful and he is the head of the state, but there are certain department, even he'll try to do monopoly and try to control, he cannot, because there is some permission boundaries set by the center. Hey, you are the head. That's true. You have given the permissions, but you cannot control this department. It is highly sensitive and critical. If you involve in this or interfere, then there will be a big escalations. Okay. So to avoid or to prevent such escalations, so center team involvement is there. That PM involvement will be there, central department involvement is there. That is how we can say in general life, you can set as a permission boundary. He's the head, he's the guardian of the states, but there is some certain permission boundary set by the center. Similarly, if any user is already given IAM full access, but that doesn't mean like he will misutilize it. Okay, he can create a dummy user, and with help of that user, with help of that user, he will log into the machines and launch different resource and can do some R&D. The unnecessary billing will be consumed. Again, it will be a big escalation for the organization, right? So to overcome that, we are coming up with the permission boundary. That is what the scenario covering. Let's say your company has multiple development teams working on AWS. The security team wants to ensure that IAM users can create and manage AWS resource but cannot exceed certain permissions. So goal is to implement permissions boundaries to what? What is the requirement? Allow developers to create, modify, delete EC2 instance, but restrict them from creating IAM role and modifying IAM permissions. This is how we are going to perform in the lab. Okay. And ensures that developers cannot escalate their privilege beyond what is defined in the boundary policy. Third, what we are going to, what is our requirement? Third requirement, enforce the permission boundary on all new IAM users assigned to the developer roles. Like that Sidhu user going forward, any user he will create, or he will apply to permission boundary to all of remaining. I mean, going forward for the upcoming new IAM users, he will apply those permission boundary. Unless he will apply those permission boundary, he cannot create the user. Clear? So that is how we are going to perform in the lab. So what are the tasks? First, we have to write a policy, permission boundary policy. Okay. What is that policy? The policy will restrict developers from modifying IAM related resource. Okay. Next task is we have to create a role and attach the permission boundary to it. Now assign IAM user to the role and test access by verifying that how it is behaving. Let's jump in. Let's jump into the lab. Yeah. Okay. It's fine. So there it is. Anyway, we have to write a policy. First, we have to write a policy. Let's create a policy. Click on JSONs. We have to write a permission boundary policy. Okay. So like this, we can create new statements and generate on your own. I have with me. I'm simply One second. I need to erase this markers. Actually, I'm quite new to this online, so not smart to handle this. Where is this markers coming? Not let me clean up this markers. But yeah, I just copy that permission boundary policy. You have to generate like this. See, whatever it is written, you see. There is one SID, statement ID is IAM access. Other one is deny permission boundary IAM policy alterations, and these are the actions deny permissions. And this is the resource. You see this is given on the resource ARN number, and this is my account ID 7793. You see, okay. Now deny removal of permission boundary from any user of role. This is the action it is given. I mean, whatever the permissions you want to set it, they can allow or they can be denied with respect to the list of actions. You can declare and write this JSON policy and update it. It's written. Okay. So click on next. I am giving the name CDM permission boundary. Let's say okay. Create policy. I think the wrong one I have created. I have because this policy I have given it has to recognize the policy name. See, policy I have given this one. This has to recognize whatever the name you will give over here. Same has to recognize over here in the console. So let me uh, delete that CDM. Just let me delete that. Okay, I cannot rename it. Okay, otherwise it will not recognize. Click and delete. Now create a policy. The policy there. No. Now create a policy. Go to JSONs. Control C, Control V. You have to update your account number. Okay. Click on next, and the exact policy name you have to give. This is the one. Whatever you write over here, the same you have to update over here. You can do your one any custom name. If you are doing the custom name, make sure the code has to be changed as well. Already existed. Why? I think the old one. I think the old one is there. Let me. Okay. Click on next. Let's say the same name you have to give as per your code. Anything will you update in the code, same name you have to give over here. It's not like what I have given. You can give your own custom name. Okay. So first step is over. Next, what we have to do? We'll test it, right? Let's try to test it. Let's say Sidhu. Let's say try to Sidhu. Sidhu is not part of any groups. Okay. Let me remove everything. Let me clean up. Okay. Now I am the architect. I am Sridhar. I am the architect. I have created one account called Sidhu, and I want to give permissions, complete IAM permission to Sidhu, so that I don't want to give because his responsibility is to whoever the new team member or new joinee and got onboarded, he will create the roles, create the users and update the passwords, roles, and all these kinds of tasks whichever related to IAM he can perform. But now let me give a permissions, add permissions. Okay, attach policy directly. I can go with manage policy over here, right? If you want to write a custom policy, you can do it. IAM full access. This is your manage policy. Click on next. Add permissions. Now Sidhu is added with IAM complete access. So let me log in. If Sidhu have all the credentials, let me log in with Sidhu now. Now Sidhu started using misutilizing. Okay. Now I am going to log in with Sidhu. Sign into consoles. Let's say sudo next. Okay. Now Sidhu cannot perform because Sidhu is having only IAM access. Now even he'll try to launch EC2 machines, let's say test, he cannot. See, uh, see when I selected this one, see proceed without key pair, he'll try to launch one machines. You are not authorized, even if try to launch a machines. You cannot see, nothing is working. Okay, nothing is working because he is only allowed, see, you are not authorized to perform. He is allowed only for IAM. He has complete controls. So what this guy do? Hey, I got the IAM full access. Let me do some R&D. So he has a complete IAM, right? So he clicked a dummy user according to diagram I'm talking about. Let's say I'm coming to diagrams. See, this guy, what is doing? He created a user one and given the administrator access, complete access. Then he started doing R&D. Sidhu does not have more privilege. When logging in a user one, cannot launch AWS resource. Post after applying the permission boundary, he cannot do. But before permission boundary, what he can do? Let's say he created one user one. According to diagram, I'm doing user one. Custom password. Let's say I'm giving some password. Okay. Now I am I logged in with Sidhu. Okay. On behalf of Sidhu, I am logging. So Sidhu logged into this consoles. Then what he is smart enough because he himself is not able to perform anything. He tried to create another account and given permission, complete administrator access. Now click on next, create a users. Okay. Now let me log out. Let me log out and log in with what? Log in with user one. Log in with user one. User one. Okay. Sidhu is having complete control. He's having complete key. Okay. I logged into user one. Now he can perform anything. Launch instance, test without key pair. Let's say using one security group. See, he can do anything. He can launch a database server. He can write a Lambda functions. He can do anything, whatever he wants to, because his admin access he has given to someone, and from there itself he's logging and doing some R&D. So because of that, he will keep on doing. Ultimately, one day the surprise will come. The billing went high. It got escalated. It went to security department. Who did? Why it happened? Why the certain permission is not set for Sidhu, though he is having full access, but why he misutilized? So it could be biggest lesson, right? How we are going to prevent it? How we are going to prevent these privilege escalations? How we are going to control Sidhu? Like Sidhu, other users also having the same issues going on, right? So in this scenario, permission boundary is the picture. Now you come out, you come out. Now let me terminate this message. Okay, let me terminate this message. And your two machines are running. Let me terminate. I have complete control, right? If this user one is having complete control, let me terminate. Now sign out. Now we are going to set a permission boundary for Sidhu. Let's say login to Sidhu. Okay. Now what I have to do? Let me come to my accounts. I mean now, so login. I am account Sridhar, the admin. So what I have to do? Go to the users. Go to Sidhu. Okay. See here there is a permission boundary not set. I have given complete IAM full access. Okay. He's doing something bad. I mean with a bad intentions, right? So now what I have to do? Click on permission boundary, set permission boundary. Okay. We have written a permission boundary, right? What is that permission boundary? Permission boundary we have written, right? Yeah, this is our policy. Set permission boundary. Okay, we have set the permission boundary. For whom? For Sidhu user. Now let's try to log in with Sidhu here. Is he able to create now? And that boundary, what is the permission we have given? That means the permission boundary when you are going to set for the specific user, what he can. See, allow what he can do. Not this one. Permission boundary. Here, this one. Yeah. Next. This. Everything I have mentioned over here, what he can, what he cannot. If he will try to delete the policy, deny permissions, you can go through and he can generate on your own according to, first you have to design what type of permission you are going to set, which one list of, which of the list of actions to be allowed and whichever the list of actions to be denied. First you have to design according to business requirement, then write the policy. Nowadays it's quite easy. You can generate with S3, no, a policy generator. You can create with hard statement. You can use AI. So that nowadays quite very easy and straightforward. Anyone can do. Write the required policy. When you give the actual context and give the actual business requirement, then it will generate the policy. Just copy paste and implement it. That's all. Okay. So this is I'm going to log in it now. Admin at the rate 123 because I applied permission boundary to Sidhu. Now let's see. Let me try to create a user if he is able to do or not. Okay. And let me delete that user, whichever is created already, right? Let's just avoid any confusions. Go to IAM. Now I am in Sidhu. This user one was already there, right? Let me delete this. Let me try next time again. Okay. Let me create the same user, another user, whatever it would be. Let's say user one. Okay. Before that, you check it for yourself because this guy is having complete IAM access now. Before that, you check, go to Sidhu, you see permission boundary set. See, they're there. Even he will try to remove boundary, also he cannot because I have set the permissions. Even he himself can set the add the permission boundary. Once he is assigned this permission boundary, he cannot come out. Once you enter into the room, then door will get locked. You cannot come outside. That is how the boundary it is set, right? Now, even he'll try to, even he try to, he'll think, hey, let me implement first. Now I'll show you the next options. Now he's going to create another users now, the same users. Okay, let's say user one or user two. User one, let's say, provide user access, custom password, admin, and rate 123. Let's say I have given. Click on next. Now, if I'll select attach policy directly, you see, attach policy directly. I can select administrator. Last time I was doing like this, right? I'll create a user, I'll give the admin access, then I'll log into that user, then I'll launch the machines. Let's see, try create user. Error string, right? You don't have permissions. I am create request to request access. Copy the following text and send it to your AWS administrator. Means your architect team. Why? This is the problem. I am unable to because we have set up. I have set a permission boundary for Sidhu. Now he cannot do what he was doing earlier with his one monopoly. Okay, the kind of misutilization of the resource. So in that scenario, I am suggesting, hey Sidhu, now I have set a permission boundary for you. Unless next time, though you have complete IAM full access, going forward, unless you set a permission boundary for the new user, you cannot create a new user. That is how the matters. So what you have to do, you have to, let's say I'm selecting, I'm giving, you just come down. You want to give a complete permission, right? You can select here and set the permission boundary, use permission boundary. Okay. By that time, we have already our permission boundary here, right? Permission boundary. Yeah, this is the one. Now click on next and permission boundary set, right? You can previous. Okay. And let me put part of administrator group. Okay. Even I'm adding this user one is part of admin group as well because admin group is having complete administrator access. See, this admin group. If I'll add a user and Sidhu is trying to create another user, that is user one. That user one will be part of admin group. That means I am also same thing I'm doing. I'm giving admin access like last time I was doing without permission boundary. Now I have given the admin access with permission boundary. I set the permission boundary. You see, we have already set, right? Click on next. You see, permission group, admin access, and the permission boundary I have set. Click on create user. Now I am able to create user. See why I am able to create user? Because I have written a rule, the boundary rule for Sidhu that Sidhu, next time when you are going to create a user, you have to associate that permission boundary. Otherwise, you cannot proceed to create a user. Okay. Now you see the user Sidhu has created. I am in Sidhu user, right? Now the user Sidhu has created. If you come here, you go to Sidhu. What is the permission he has given? He is having IAM full access, and also for him permission boundary set. See, that's why that is what I have set the permission boundary for him. Okay. Now, if you go to user one, what he has created, Sidhu created now, right? The Sidhu user one is having also admin access like last time without permission boundary. When admin access was there, he was able to perform anything. Now also we have given the same, but here one additional things what we have done, we have set the permission boundary over here. Now let's try to log out. Let's try to log out, then log into sign in consoles. What is that? Username, user one, let's say. Okay. Now same user one. Last time he was able to launch the machine. Now let's try if he's able to do, because he's having admin access. User one is having admin access, which Sidhu has given. Let's try test. Let's say one machine I'm trying to launch. See, now the error started coming, right? The AMI might not no longer exist, maybe specific. Let's say select proceed without key pair. You see, nothing is coming. Network, nothing is coming. You cannot perform. Even you go for edit network, you see nothing is showing. You are not authorized to perform these operations. You are not able to launch. Even you cannot do anything. See, all the API error is coming. See, okay, he is having admin access, but he cannot. He was trying to misutilize, right, with the help of user one. Now nothing he can work because I set the permission boundary for Sidhu. Going forward, any user he will create, he has to follow the procedures. He has to allow the permission boundary. Then only he can able to create the user. And the list of actions the user wants to perform. His role is to only to create the user and give the username password. Okay, and the respective permission he wants to give, on basis of that, again I have to modify my permission boundary. That's all. Okay, even this user will try to create a S3 bucket. It is not. It will not possible. If the policy is not written, it will not possible. See. Okay. So this is quite interesting one, and in real time it is required. Everything, all topic I am discussing over here, all the scenario based. It's quite important when as architect when you are going to design the environment. Okay. So this is all about your permissions boundary. So now I can remove all permission boundary, remove boundary. I'm just cleaning up. Okay. Yeah, that's all about the permission boundary.